Hello, this is this week's Catering Insight and Food Service Equipment Journal Markets Talk, and this week's guests are Peter Kitchen, who is MD of CNC Catering Equipment, and also Simon Frost, who is MD of Hoshizaki UK. Thank you very much for joining us today, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Excellent stuff. I'm going to start with you, Peter. So I've seen at the moment over a lot of your social media channels that CNC is working on a number of different projects, which seems to be kind of bucking the trend a little in the industry at the moment. So are these projects something that you're working on before the lockdown, or are they work that you've picked up since?
A bit of both, really, Claire. We've everything we lost, unlike some of our suppliers in the industry who may have lost 3 months of trading, people who sell via the catalogues, etc. Anything that we lost is basically just been deferred. So we've got, we had really a non-existent March and April. We've had a decent sort of July, and I'm sure August and beyond will be good. But so we haven't lost anything. We're finishing off. I've got a list here of stuff I can tell you about. There's also a list of stuff I can't mention. Things like Lotus Cars in Norwich. I mean, that's a nice name that we're finishing off. AstraZeneca, Quilter, finishing off Pernod. I think that's Chiswick. So there's some Leicester University. So a lot of the jobs went on hold, and then they came on again. But since about 6 or 7 of us worked all the way through, and Paul Parry, guy I've worked with for 30 odd years, 36 years probably. He's been so busy, and we've landed some good stuff, and it just got to keep it going all the time. And I don't want to brag and say how busy we are, because I know some people aren't busy, and that's the last thing I want to do. But things are okay at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's great. I'm glad to hear some good news amongst all the doom and gloom at the moment. But I will give you a little bit of a chance to kind of big CNC up. So why do you think that you kind of bucking the trend in that way when lots of projects have disappeared for other kitchen design houses?
I think we're very good at what we do. I think people trust us. They like us working for them. I think we're very honest. We're very straight talking. We're very professional. And so, sorry, does Simon not agree there?
No. Sorry, absolutely in full agreement, my friend.
We're a safe pair of hands. You know, financially we're pretty stable, and when it comes to these big schemes, I think we're very, very good. We're very, very good at the small ones as well, but we are good at what we do. And I think, you know, if we were in America, I'd be hootering and hollering and saying how fantastic we are. But we're English and, you know, British, and we're very reserved. But I think we are genuinely good at what we do. I think the main contractors like us. I think the consultants feel quite safe with us. But we're only as good as our last job. So all the time we just need to that's what I've got to do. I've got to make sure that everyone in the 3 companies we've got, everyone is doing what they should be doing, and at the moment everyone is. So
fantastic. Simon, did you want to bring us up to speed on what life is like at Hoshizaki at the moment? It looks like you're back in the office environment. Is that
yes, I am. Yes, I've started to make a point of coming in a couple of days a week to the office. I quite enjoy my own company, I have to say, but I think 3.5 months of it, I was sick of the sight of myself, to be perfectly honest. It's been pretty tedious. We furloughed 27 members of staff at the beginning of April, which was tough. The company did go out of their way to look after them in terms of topping up the furlough payment from the government to ensure that we retained our talent and our staff. But it was never going to be easy. Similar to Peter, we had an April to forget about. May was even worse, but June, thankfully, we did in June, in the first 7 days, working 7 days of June, we did the entirety of May. So that gives you an indication of how bad it was. But we always, you know, certainly in terms of conversations with head office, it was always pretty clear to me that, you know, we were going to hit the bottom probably in May. I said maybe the end of April, but certainly for us it was the month of May, and then June has certainly seen a marked improvement, as has July. So we are certainly tracking in the right direction. That said, I think it's going to take us a long time to get back to 2019 levels, because ironically in 2019 we had our best ever year. In 2020, ironically, we'll probably have the worst ever year, but still, that's sort of from circumstances beyond our control. We're fortunate now that we've started to bring people back in. The ASMs have started back this week, so all of our sales team is back this week, albeit on sort of 2 days a week to start with. A lot of the office staff are back, so Emma and her sales admin team are back. We've got quite a few of the engineering and parts and service support also back. And the inquiry levels have certainly seen a dramatic increase, certainly in July. So it's sort of given us the confidence to start to bring people back. Of course, the worry is, and I'm sure as I said to Peter, you don't want to swamp the business with costs when the sales simply aren't there to support it. So we have been quite cautious in terms of our phasing people back in, despite, you know, certainly one of my service managers pleading with me to bring engineers back, but we've just resisted until we felt that there was enough work for them to do. The prognosis for us going forward is that we're seeing some of the, you know, our major chains now picking up. Some of the pub chains are now spending again, which is good. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough year. I think we're going to be well down on the original budget for 2020, we think. But and next year is going to be a challenge. I think it all really hinges on, you know, what happens when we leave Europe on the 31st of December. But also, of course, what happens with the COVID vaccination, because, you know, if a vaccine becomes available either the end of this year or beginning of next, it's a game changer. I think people's confidence will return, and I think, you know, all of a sudden we could revert back to maybe not to 2019 straight away, but I think the recovery will be that much quicker.
What about in terms of the factory? You've got the factory in Telford, which makes the ice machines, and obviously
Yes.
Denmark making the refrigeration. Are they back up to anywhere near full capacity yet?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, because we export as well into Europe, I mean, Telford was back up to speed, and they've actually deferred their closure because, like many manufacturers, we have a close down period. And regrettably, Gram decided that it was still a good time to take a holiday, so they're on holiday at the moment. You thought they would have had enough time off, for goodness sake. But anyway, another couple of weeks won't hurt. But Telford actually deferred their break, so they've actually staggered the break over smaller, long weekends. And I mean, the guys still get their holiday entitlement, of course they do, but we don't have the 2-week shutdown because when Europe sort of started to come back, the demand was actually pretty high, pretty quick. So Telford is at to full capacity at the moment. So and working long hours as well. So the shifts are back and they're back up pretty fully functional. Gram, not quite so quick, but as I say, they had built for stock before the closure. So touch wood, we're okay for stock at the moment on key lines.
Okay.
Excellent stuff. I mean, Simon, the Hoshizaki Gram integration was recently completed. So what does that entail then? Is that kind of back-end stuff?
Essentially, the first part of the integration, if you remember, Peter probably will remember it quite well, was the beginning of 2017, where the UK entities were merged into one. So we had Hoshizaki UK downstairs and Gram upstairs in this office that I'm sat in now. Hoshizaki Telford actually is, while it's part of the group, is actually a completely separate entity. It reports directly into Japan. The BV part of it, which is the European headquarters, also had the factory in Denmark, the Gram factory, reporting into BV. But part of the problems that we've seen is you've got two management structures, you've got two cultures, you've got a number of people trying to take a chunk out of the product margin before it actually reaches the customer. So it was quite important, I think, in terms of obviously streamlining the supply chain route to market, but also in terms of streamlining and sort of driving efficiencies in the business in terms of the administrative side. And it's always been there. It was always planned to be done. But obviously it's not something that you just flick a switch and off it goes. I mean, they've been planning the various changes in terms of IT and, you know, employment contracts and all that have been going on behind the scenes for some time. So the official date was, as you saw, just a couple of weeks ago. And of course that now means that the factory is now part of the BV structure. So Ola, who was the MD of Gram, is now Assistant Managing Director to Kaz, who is our European MD based out of Amsterdam. So hopefully it will drive efficiencies there and some benefits obviously can be seen by the customers as well.
Okay, excellent stuff. Back to you, Peter. In terms of your workforce, I know Simon was saying that he had to furlough some. I mean, how many did you have to furlough? And I think I've seen that you're actually now recruiting. So how have you managed to do that as well?
We had, when it all kicked off in end of March, early April, we had 68 staff in the 3 companies, 52 on furlough. So basically there were 2 people in the fabrication company, Greg Swift, the MD, and a CAD guy. They worked and everyone else was on furlough. There's now only 3 of them that are on furlough, so the majority are back. The engineering company, I think there were 9 all the way through, doing nursing home work, doing school work, etc. I think there's 3 of those that are still to come back. And then in our company, there's 8 on furlough, and out of those 8, there's 3 on part-time furlough. But it was hard. I mean, it was well, no one's experienced anything like this. And the shame of it was that the end of last year was awful. Simon said before about, you know, the best year and the worst year. We had our best year last year, finishing the end of April. The end of last year was really sort of middling, and then we had the election. Everything was great. January, February, fantastic. Obviously, you know, the rest is history. And we are on the same boat, but I think our turnover for just the CNC catering equipment dropped, I think, by about 30-40%. So, you know, it's still bad, but it's not as bad as other people have experienced. But I've enjoyed it. I'm working from home now. I'm going to go into work tomorrow and Thursday. But I've enjoyed being from home, working from home, seeing my wife, doing I've really enjoyed it, which is bizarre because, you know, it's been a crazy time. But I have also really enjoyed the last few months, bizarrely. I've got, you know, really enjoyed it.
Would you say, Peter, that it will install any kind of cultural change within the business now, moving forward? Because of this period?
It will for me. No, it might do for other people. You know, I talked to Paul Parry this morning and I said to him, look, if we have your setup that you've got in work computer-wise, why don't you have the same at home? And then if you want to work on a Monday or a Friday from home, it doesn't matter to me. It's about trusting people. And sorry, going back to Claire's question before, we are recruiting. We've taken on, in the engineering company, we took on 2 people who were ex-Nisbets. One guy's a fridge engineer. We pay out a lot of subcontractors for fridge engineering work. That was a no-brainer. Great guy. And we've taken a sales guy on who's going to start, I think, in October. And for us as a company, we've taken on a PM, a good young lad, 29-year-old, who lives near Gatwick. And I see this as an opportunity. It's an opportunity for, you know, for us to get good people. It's a shame that a lot of good people have had their lives changed, I'm going to say ruined. And I think in a lot of cases it's justified. And I think also in other cases, I think this COVID-19 is a great excuse to get rid of people, and that's really sad.
I think after when we last had a big recession, you know, going back some years ago, the period after that led to quite a large amount of consolidation within the distributor market. Do you think we're heading to a stage, Peter, where we're going to see that over the next 6 to 12 months?
How do you mean with consolidation?
So maybe companies leaving the market, more scope for mergers, insolvencies, those kind of things, and a shrinking of the number of players.
I'm glad that our company doesn't just deal with the high street pub chains, restaurant. You know, we do a lot of other stuff besides that, and I wouldn't want to be a company, and I feel sorry for people because I want everyone to do well. That's how I've always looked at it. You know, I think I told Claire that once a week I try and talk to Jack Sharkey and Mark Drazen, and it's good to talk to people. They are competitors, but you know, I like these guys, so I don't want anything to happen to anyone else's company. I certainly don't want anything to happen to our company. I hope everyone's going to be okay, but everyone won't be okay. There might be mergers, there might be people, things, but I think it's plain to see that the bigger you are, the worse you are off at the moment.
Sure.
So, you know, we hear, I'm not going to mention any other names, but we hear about other companies employing 400 who might have to get rid of 140. And you know, I say it's sad, it's people's lives. These people have got families, mortgages and everything. And I know sometimes you've got to do it. And I will do whatever I've got to do to keep this company going. But I want to bring everyone back if I can. I don't want to lose anyone. I want to try and bring everyone back because I want them all to come back to work because I've got a duty to them. But I don't think everyone thinks like Peter Kitchen. I think people, they don't, sadly.
Okay, we'll leave that point there. Coming back to Simon, I know Hoshizaki recently launched an ice maker sanitization service. So is that something that you're kind of putting even more focus on in these times? Because I know that was something that was quite prevalent in the ice maker sector as well, with various stories going on with operator horror stories of certain substances in ice.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't matter how much you sanitize your appliance. If you've got people that just simply don't wash their hands when they've been to the toilet, you're going to struggle. But no, for us it was primarily aimed at some of the key accounts that we deal with, some of the pub chains that we deal with. But we then felt that it was probably appropriate to put it out to a wider audience, because where many people have probably turned their ice machines off for 2 or 3 months before they're restarting them, it's not just a simple question of just a quick wipe round with a cloth. I mean, the chances are the water filter is probably clogged because, you know, once they sit dormant for a period of time, you know, the people that make them for us recommend that they should be changed. And of course, there's also, you know, a health responsibility for the operators to check the machines a little bit more thoroughly, as I say, rather than just, you know, giving it a wipe round with a cloth and thinking that'll be fine. You know, our suggestion is that it's properly sanitized using chemicals. It's run through a couple of cycles, and the ice is disposed of that is produced. And of course the filter also changed. So we did, as I say, like a special offer, which was the sanitization service plus the replacement of the filter, which was pretty much done just above cost price for the filters, just really to help people get back up and running. Because, you know, the last thing you need is, you know, when you're trying to get your table sorted or your kitchen ready or your customers' sort of seating areas prepared, you know, you just want to be able to go to your bits of equipment and turn them on. So we felt for some of the pub chains especially, it might be a good sort of assistance to just sort of help them sort of think about one thing less as they're starting to sort of prepare themselves for, you know, a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, we've had I wouldn't say we've been inundated, but we've had a reasonable uptake from it. And,
yeah, have you had many service calls of all of these machines broken down through lack of maintenance over the shutdown period?
Yeah, I mean, we expected service to spike first, so we sort of started to bring parts and service back before sales, really. And it was true that, you know, the service phone was a lot busier than the sales phone, put it that way. And it was basically with people starting to prepare to bring stuff back. You know, in terms of sales wise, certainly at the start of the breakdown or the lockdown, it was predominantly fridge. So we sold virtually no ice machines at all, because obviously they're marketplaces, pubs and bars, and, you know, people that want to drink. So it was bare necessities in terms of freezers. So, but as people have started to come back to work, you know, they're then saying, oh, Christ, we need a new ice machine, or, you know, we need to ensure that this one's checked over and serviced. So we have had quite a few of the pubs sort of taking us up on our offer. As I say, we haven't been inundated with that particular offer, but it's been reasonably successful.
Peter, starting to see a number of manufacturers now rolling out kind of financing programs that are designed to make it sort of more affordable and easier for operators to get hold of the equipment they need, and obviously try and stimulate some sales at a time when companies are tightening their belts. Where do you sit on those? Are they quite useful mechanisms for dealers and distributors like yourselves?
I think I saw Hobart. Was it Hobart announced it yesterday? I think there was a Hobart one yesterday. I think they're a great idea. I don't think we use them as much as we should. We insure all of our debts. We've got an order for a job with a massive builder that I was emailing back earlier, and we can't get any credit on them, and they're massive. And last year, I think they had, on memory, 480 million in the bank, and we can't get any credit on them with our insurers with QBE. So incentives like that are good. You know, Jack Sharkey actually told me about a lease company that's really good, and he gave me the guy's contact details. I don't get involved in sales. I leave it to the other guys. But any tool like that is great. And I think Hobart have always done it, but now they're having this it's a separate company, I believe, isn't it, just to do this. And anything's great, but what we want to do is if someone's opening a pub or a bar and they need 50 grand's worth of stuff, if you can do it on some kind of an agreement with Hobart or whoever, yeah, great. Dave Riley owes me some money now, by the way. I've mentioned Hobart a few times there.
I think it's the future, Andrew, personally. I think this is going to be, you know, I mean, you only have to look at the automotive industry, the way that that's been transformed, you know, in terms of new car sales. People don't buy cars anymore. They lease them, or they have these PCP contracts. And of course, that's driven new car sales. And I think that will probably be the saviour of the automotive industry as we come out of lockdown. And I think, you know, looking at innovative ways to finance equipment for operators and through dealers that we work with, I think is absolutely the way forward, because, you know, let's be honest, capital expenditure is going to be squeezed. You know, people are going to be looking at anywhere they can save money, but they still want to progress their business. So to have some kind of cost-effective way to be able to finance that is going to be, you know, I think it's going to be a real bonus.
It's certainly an interesting area, because I think in the past, you know, if you take an area like leasing, it's almost felt like a difficult sell. You think now the conditions are almost bringing an element of attraction to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it will be, the onus will be on the finance companies to promote the best sort of rates that we can then give to our customers. I mean, we have looked at it before, but I think when we tried it before, we tried to do like an interest-free offering that really wasn't quite geared in the right way, and it didn't really capture the imagination. But it certainly works, and certainly, you know, Dave Riley and Hobart and Foster's have certainly demonstrated that there is a marketplace for this to work. So, you know, we need to find, you know, a similar series of actions that we can promote as well. But as I say, I think for me, it's definitely the way forward.
Okay, I think that's probably almost time for us to say goodbye for this week, but just one quick question to both of you. What would you say the main learnings you've taken out of this unprecedented period? I'll start off with Peter.
To try and enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then get a job. I've enjoyed, as I said before, the last few months. I think you can see that you can work from home if you want to do that. Some people can't. You know, my kids are 30 and 28, so, you know, I've not got young kids to look after running around, although I still have to look after them sometimes. But I think just enjoy what you do, and trust people, try and be fair to people, and as I say, I really have enjoyed it. I don't know that my wife's enjoyed me being around here all the time. I've enjoyed what I've done, and it's plus I think the Wi-Fi is better here than it is in work, so that's why.
Something for the tech department to look at. But for you, Simon, what would be the main learnings?
I think, you know, I would echo Peter's comments. I mean, you know, for me, I'm quite used to working from home anyway. I mean, I've done it for God knows how many years, so it was just an extension to what I was already doing. But I think in terms of learning, I think it's demonstrated some of the qualities of people that we work with, and some of the dare I say, some of the lacking in qualities of other people that we work with. And, you know, there's been some dealers that, in fact, that Peter actually mentioned, that have been leading lights in the way that they've communicated with us about payments and so on and so on, because we accept that people are struggling to get money in, aren't we all? And I think it's been the way that people have worked with manufacturers to help everybody through this particular unprecedented time. And I would, you know, there's been some real refreshing information sharing, and people taking it upon themselves to be proactive, to call you to say, look, we're getting paid on this day, yada, 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 yada. And of course, you're more than happy to A, accept what they're asking, and B, support them with ongoing supply of products if they need it. There's been other examples which have been quite surprising, and some big companies as well that have been quite surprising in their, should we say, their inability to pick up the phone and communicate or respond to email, which has been disappointing. But of course, you learn, and you bear that in mind for how we move forward and how we support those people that have been willing to support us as well. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us this week, and join us next week for a new market talk.